If you've been anywhere near the indie game community recently, you've probably heard about the Silksong pricing situation. I've been playing Silksong for a while now, and it truly is amazing. Beautifully designed areas, fluent gameplay, and a gorgeous soundtrack to go along with it. But there has been an uproar in the indie game world. Not just from players, but also from other indie developers. Because Silksong only launched at $20. When this was announced, most people were very surprised, because not a single person would have batted an eye if the most anticipated game of 2025 would have cost $30 or even $40. Some fans even wrote mails to Team Cherry demanding them to set the game at a higher price point. Yes, people were actually writing to Team Cherry telling them to raise the price. Not because they wanted to spend more money, obviously, but because they felt the game deserved it. For the price of one Mario Kart Tour, I can buy 4 entire Silksongs. I pay a quarter of the price for a game that arguably has more content, character, and love in it. You can spend tens of hundreds of hours in Silksong and still find new things. For $20. But let's talk about the side you might not have heard so much about. The developer's side. As someone who is also actively working on an indie game, I feel I have the perspective to talk about this topic from the view of the developer and share my thoughts here. See, here's the problem. When a game with that level of polish, depth, and scope launches for $20, it unintentionally makes every other indie game look less valuable. If I release a smaller, more minimalist game and I try to sell it for, say, $15, some people will think that this is too expensive and be turned off because of the expectations set by the Silksong price. That's the dilemma. Developers suddenly feel pressure to lower their prices just to look fair by comparison. Here's what I want to say to all the other indie devs who are watching this. Do not let Silksong dictate your pricing. Pricing your game isn't about comparing yourself to other games, it's about understanding your own value. If you make a short narrative experience, maybe it's only 2 hours long, that doesn't make it worth less. If it connects with people emotionally or does something unique, that's value. If your game has soul, if it offers something distinctive, it deserves to be priced fairly and independent from other games. And the audience will recognize that. The reason Team Cherry can afford to sell low is because they have a massive fan base, huge visibility, and millions of guaranteed sales. They're not trying to ruin other indie devs or set a new industry standard. We don't need to compete with Silksong. We just need to keep making games that matter to us. Team Cherry set their own price based on their circumstances, and you should do the same. That's how the indie scene stays healthy, when creators value their work and when players respect that value. I hope I brought my point across well enough, and you indie devs out there can sleep just a bit better tonight. All of this has been on my mind a lot lately, especially as I've been working on my own indie game. It's a much smaller project than something like Silksong, but thinking about pricing, scope, and value has really made me reflect on how I want to present it to players. And my solution was to add a lot more visual details, like parallax scrolling and glow around more important objects. Now, I understand that this solution may not work for every indie developer out there, but in that case, you're just gonna have to decide on how you're gonna approach this situation yourself. So instead of thinking I need to lower the price of my game, I want to increase its quality. It kind of goes against what I said earlier about not comparing, but I think everyone gets something from this situation, and I'm happy to do something that is going to make players remember or love my game more. The game is called The Fabric of the Mind, and I'd love to share more in my devlogs as I continue building it. Feel free to subscribe and keep up to date with what I'm up to. Either way, thank you for your time, and I'll see you around.